These are the directions for the D-Day Normandy simulation. Before we get started with the simulation, we want to have students be aware of the soft skills because the military does require soft skills, as does every other institution in America. It's just simply an awareness, and you want to have an understanding of how this simulation will help develop some of these soft skills that institutions throughout America are requiring. The goal behind this simulation, the D-Day invasion, is to secure the beach. Once the beach is secured, Allied forces can deploy resources from the ocean onto land. Students are broken up into two sides utilizing these roles, and a blank piece of paper with politician, naval forces will be placed on the chest of the student. The room needs to be reconfigured utilizing this particular configuration. Allied side is here, the Axis side is in brown, and this is going to vary depending on class size. But for the most part, we want to see German soldiers here, and then we want to see Allied forces on this side of the room, with the goal of having Allied forces reach the blackboard. Depending on class size, you probably will not have all of these particular units, but at a minimum, you want to have Navy, tank, Air Force, and war resources. These students will rarely move throughout the simulation. Primarily this one, the goal behind this invasion is to secure the beach to allow war resources to travel throughout Europe. This map here represents Europe and Allied forces coming in this direction. The game is played in rounds. In round one, the politician will distribute money to the military strategist in the form of payment for the war effort. The military strategist will then work in conjunction with the politician to figure out a solution to the problem. For example, the first thing that you probably want to do is take a look at the map and look at the classroom and compare the two, looking at these questions here to see what questions students see or problems students see regarding the reconfiguration of the room. Within each round, politician gives money, the military strategist makes a decision, and then troops deploy based on the directions of the military strategist, and then the round is over. So we will first start off with the Axis side. This will play out, and then we'll go to the Allied powers, and that round will be over, both paying $1. And then the second round begins. This simulation does require balled up paper, and most of that paper will go to the German side here. In round one, again, the Axis side goes first, but utilizing the map right here, students are moving one step at a time during a round if the military strategist decides. So in this scenario, if the military strategist in round one decides to move troops up, all troops move up one space. These stay stationary, and that round is over. In that same round for the other side, at that point, the German side needs to figure out what to do. If the German side makes the decision to try to hit one of the students with a curled up piece of paper, the military strategist will direct one of the students within this file here. If any of those particular students are hit, that student is out for the round. Let's just say this individual strikes this one, and that individual is out for this portion. By the end of 3 rounds, the likelihood of all of these Allied forces getting to 3 steps is very high. Once that happens, one of these individual students will be placed behind enemy lines. This slide summarizes the options of each. So far we've addressed this one as well as this one, but there are other options that require a dice roll. Each student is given this particular casualty card. With this casualty card, let's just say I'm moving my troops up within 1 round. They move up, and the Axis power hits this individual. This individual is now wounded. Since each student is handed this card with this range card, or this casualty card, indicates here a stomach wound. It might have a head wound, but if the military strategist on this Allied side decides they want to use a medic for their next round, the medic is required to run up to the wounded soldier and grab the card and then report back to his or her position. If they are successful, then that particular student is revived. If the German side hits this individual again, that is a casualty, or they might decide to hit this individual while they're running. That would then mean 2 soldiers are down. When the game begins, the Germans have the option to deploy the Hedgehog, these X steel columns that were placed on the beach to prevent tanks from being deployed. When the Germans deploy Hedgehogs, desks are placed as obstacles for tanks. The Germans would now be behind the desk. There is the hint here, because this is actually what happens. They want to make sure that those hedgehogs are there. Let's see how this plays out. So in round 1, the Axis side goes. We are encouraging them to deploy the hedgehogs. And then at the end of their turn, the Allied powers then go. The Allied powers have these 4 options. They can drop aerial bombs. They can use naval forces. They could try to drop paratroopers, or they could move up. Each of these options has a scenario that is determined by the roll of the dice. So in that scenario, let's just say I decide I'm going to drop paratroopers. I then go to this section, and the teacher rolls. If there's a 2, 4, or 6, the plane is lost, but only if the Germans deploy anti-aircraft. So as they decide to deploy paratroops, the German military strategist is asked if they will deploy anti-aircraft. And usually the decision is going to be a yes, which then means these dice rolls. If this is a success, they say successful deploy, see next slide, then that would mean that the student, because the paratroopers are flying over and successfully deployed, we're going to try to drop the student here. But this also depends on another roll of the die. If the paratroopers are deployed successfully and the plane is not shot down, they are then subjected to these variables. They only need a 1 and a 5 in order to have a safe landing. If they do secure the safe landing, then when we go back to the map, that would mean 1 soldier is here. If 3 soldiers ever make it behind enemy lines, then at that particular point, we go to this slide. Once troops are behind enemy lines, so they're going to have to roll. So if I have 3 students behind, once that's achieved, then I roll for each student. If they get a 1, 4, 6, then that would mean killed by gunfire, make it to objective, but fail to secure it, and then a 6. So that would mean 1 out of 3 succeeded with their mission. That's only if 3 are able to make it across. On the German side, they can also make the decision to try to drop mortar bombs into enemy boats. If they make that decision, then we are subjected to these particular odds here. So for the most part, what happens is students look at the odds and find that those odds are just putting them at a disadvantage. Let's go to this slide right here, this section. In round 1, the hedgehogs are deployed. Round 1 on the Allied powers. Let's just say they decide they're going to move up. I'm going to put down line. German, they move up to this particular line. The Germans then take one individual out. And then within the next round, let's just say the Germans decide they're going to try to knock out one of the sides, utilizing the mortars. At that point, let's go back to this map here. So again, we're moving up 1. So we're pretending that everybody here has moved up 1 line. But this individual is a casualty. So on the German next round, they decide they're going to try to drop a mortar in the boat. If they do, then they can pick either this side, or this side to be completely eliminated from Brown. And once all of these individuals are out, they are just replenished with a new batch of soldiers and the same students replaced. If on the Allied side, let's just say the Allies decide a naval bombardment. Let's say they're lucky and they keep getting a 3 and a 4. What happens in that scenario is that the German soldiers here, they start getting removed. And once the German soldiers are down to 1, the next phase then begins. And in the last phase, a desk is placed in the middle of the room with little slips of paper. And then all of the Allied powers line up. And then one at a time, they try to grab a slip of paper. If they can grab a slip of paper off the desk without getting hit, then that is a win. But they have to secure all of these. Once all of these are secured without getting hit, then it would be the opportunity to deploy the tanks and then the resources. And that's it.